Hi, my name is Kylie Brown, and I am a sophomore here at ASU, and I am American. I was born and raised in Bend, Oregon, and now I go to school here in Arizona. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about equity literacy and how it relates to many different categories. I think a major start is the definition of equity literacy, and that is the ability to recognize, analyze, and address inequalities in education and society by developing critical awareness, knowledge, and skills to create just more inclusive environments. I think equity literacy has a lot behind it, and I think that it's also a very, very great thing to have moving forward. So my career goals, my main goal is to become a teacher. I want to become a teacher that teaches in, around 3rd to 5th grade. I have not quite decided yet what exact grade I want to be in. I still have a little bit more exploring to do in that realm. Another goal of mine is to gain experience in the classroom management and lesson planning. I think it's super important to know classroom management and lesson planning, and to be able to pursue that. I think it will cause for a more organized and less chaotic classroom overall. Another goal I have is to potentially pursue a master's degree in education or criminal justice. Education is my major now, so it would be nice to be able to pursue a master's in that. And then I am currently minoring in criminal justice, so I think, one of my goals is to have a master in that as well, and then that way I do have a backup plan. Another one of my goals is to build relationships with students, parents, and colleagues to create a positive learning environment. I think it's super important to, have that bond with your students, but as well have that bond with their parents and people in the community and gym teachers and music teachers, and I think having that bond is something that's very important. So my goal is to be, one of those people that bonds with everybody. Another goal I have is to stay updated and involved in educational trends and teaching strategies. As we know, strategies and trends change every day. Every day there's something new. Maybe something old comes back. So one of my goals is just, to stay up on that so that I can be the best teacher to these kids that I can possibly be. Equity literacy in my field. Equity literacy relates to my field of education in many ways. An example of this implementation could include students having access to a wide range of different teaching methods and reading materials to encourage diverse comprehension. Equity literacy in a classroom is considering and accommodating all types of learners and students to obtain the best understandings to fully comprehend the curriculum being taught. To me, this means if someone doesn't read as well as another, they both still have access to the reading materials that they need. Maybe one has an audio book and the other has a reading book. Just finding ways to where everybody's included and everybody's in unison as one, learning the same things, even if it is a little bit differently. My next category is race, ethnicity, geography, and national origin. There's a lot I believe that equity literacy can be put into this. A huge thing that I've witnessed in my past is anti-discrimination on-board training. When you're being hired for that new job, maybe you're student teaching and you do an onboarding for that. You go through a lot of training and slides and work on anti-discrimination. We treat people the same. We love everybody. There's a lot of training in that aspect. This relates in many ways, I think, to equity literacy. Anti-discrimination on-board training and equity literacy are closely connected in that both aim to create an inclusive and fair environment. Equity literacy refers to the knowledge and skills to recognize, respond to, and address inequalities in the same systems and interactions. When anti-discrimination training is integrated into employees' onboarding, it serves as a foundational step in developing employees' equity literacy knowledge for use in the classroom for student maximum success. To become a teacher, you do anti-discrimination policy. To become even an employee at a grocery store, you have to do this training. I think, it has a big deal and a lot to do with equity literacy. My next category is religion and spirituality. This I personally thought was a little bit harder to find something that I witnessed until I did a little bit of research and kind of understood what this meant to and how it related to equity literacy. Something that I witnessed is schools revising its policies to accommodate a student's religious practices. As you know, in a lot of schools you can't wear hats, you can't, cover your face, no bandanas. There's lots of rules. You even have schools that make you wear a school uniform. And those are all because of students' religious practices, or in some cases the school's religious practices. So that's something that I witnessed. When a school revises its policies to accommodate a student's religious practices, it demonstrates equity literacy by recognizing and addressing systematic barriers that may disadvantage certain students based off their faith. An example of this would be that the school has a strict uniform policy, which I spoke on before. Like I said, there's lots of no's in what you can and can't wear to school. Equity literacy would be this school revising its policies and permitting hijabs and turbans. Things that religiously students wear. The school is actively working to create an equitable learning environment. My next category is gender and sexuality. Something that I've witnessed before is inclusive policies for transgender and non-binary students. As we know in schools, it's not just the students, it's the teachers, it's the faculty, it's the headquarters that often don't make including these students a priority or something that's important. Inclusive policies for transgender and non-binary students relate to equity literacy because they move beyond general inclusivity and focus on recognizing and addressing and dismantling structure barriers that create inequalities at school. Another category that I have is class and socioeconomics. Something that I've witnessed, and honestly something that I've been a part of, something that I've been included in and known about and been involved in for almost my whole life, is eliminating pay-to-play fees for school sports and activities. Getting rid of pay-to-play fees for school sports would allow so many more children and students to be involved in those sports and to get involved and to not be afraid to be involved and to have the chance to give it a shot. Funds is a huge problem in lots of schools, and it's hard for parents to afford, especially if they have more than one kid. By applying equity literacy, schools move beyond just acknowledging socioeconomic disparities to actively dismantling financial barriers that prevent low-income students from accessing the same opportunities as their wealthier peers. So this allows kids to play the same sports as their friends, even if they're a little bit more low income than their friends are. Some of my key takeaways from doing this project and learning about equity literacy is: 1, understanding equity versus equality. Equality, you can have a million different people, and like this picture shows here, a million different people and one bike, but not everybody can ride that bike comfortably, or some not at all. Equity is making sure that everybody has exactly what they need to be able to participate and be a part of it. Another one is cultural competence is not enough. It really isn't. it takes so much more than that to make sure that equity literacy is implanted in life. High expectations for all students. My key takeaway from this was to have the expectation that all students use equity and not equality. All students use equity in their daily lives, with their friends, with their families, etc. Critical reflection and awareness. I think this is super important, that I've taken away from this is you don't always realize what's happening until it's over. If you reflect and are very aware on the situations and what's going on currently, then you are much more apt to be able to use equity more often in your life. Family and community engagement. I think family and community engagement is a huge part of equity literacy. Keeping families engaged and the communities engaged and everybody working together, it'll be a lot easier that way than doing it on your own. Policy and structural change. That has to do with schools, with communities, with families, with lots. Data-driven decision making. This would mean using the data that has proven that it's a problem to make changes. And recognizing and disrupting inequities. Get rid of the bad and bring in the good.